we have a really distinguished panel of the leaders from the government and the business. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you see, we will start from our first speaker, Maia Bitadze, the chairperson of the Environmental Protection and Natural Resources Committee of the Parliament of Georgia. Ms. Bitadze, welcome. On the one hand, I will start with a question. On one hand, we have obligation, I mean, Georgia has obligation to approximate our regulation, including environmental ones, of course, to European acquis, because this is our obligation taking through the association agreement. And on the other hand, this approximation comes with the cost of the business, especially for SMEs. Our question is the following: how the government is planning to support SMEs in this process of adopting new regulations? This is first part of the question. And the second part is also how you, as the government, incentivizing or planning to incentivize the Georgian SMEs in transition to the green economy. So, Ms. Maia, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much, first of all, for inviting me at this very important conference on one hand, at this very important panel, which deals with promotion of green economy and with the challenges with regard to the transition to it. First of all, I would like to recall the past decades of ignorant and careless environmental management. Moreover, this era had nothing to do with environmental management. On the contrary, we can call this era of environmental deregulation, which created a lot of obstacles for further development. But signing of association agreement and Agenda 2030 and Paris Agreement became the turning point for Georgia to comprehensively change its attitude toward environmental regulations. As a result of it, Georgia has reached important progress in terms of effective environmental governance and elaborated some legal acts dealing with proper environmental management system, environmental governance, and some other specific laws. For example, we have already adopted environmental liability code. We have adopted environmental impact assessment code. We have already adopted waste management code, forestry code, and so on and so on. With these reforms, Georgia is shifting to the development, to the phase where environmental benefits should become tangible for citizens. For that purpose, environmental benefits should become tangible, as I have said, but on the another hand, we should harmonize it to European environmental regulations. For instance, we are planning to adopt some new laws dealing with industrial emissions, draft law on biodiversity, draft law on industrial emissions, water management, and if you look at those laws thoroughly, it will be very clear that all these new laws already adopted and the laws which should be adopted, they are all dealing with transition of business to new regulations and new requirements, which are quite challenging for the economy like Georgia has. I would like to say also that we realize how important it is to support business and small and medium enterprise mostly, and it's important to create some, I'm sorry, there's some problem with my camera.
Okay, Ms. Maia, take your time, please.
Do you hear my voice? Because I have problem with the camera. That's why we are working with the central government to be in line with the association agreement, the Agenda 2030 priorities, and our committee itself prioritized the work for 2021-24. We had 6 main priorities which we think are very important. On one hand, to preserve the natural environment, to preserve our environment for our future generations, and on another hand, those priorities will deal with some incentives and stimulation measures to support business to make changes toward changing their technologies. I would like to emphasize and to say very briefly about those priorities, which are green growth and circular economy, climate resilient urban and rural development, promoting sustainable forest resources management, development support of mining sector, environmental protection and promotion of environmental supervision, and of course, stakeholder engagement and awareness raising, which is very, very important, not only among citizens and business, but among governmental authorities, because we are talking about quite new things and new legislation, which is absolutely challenging, and we understand how important it is to find more synergies between economic development and environmental protection. I will try to briefly go in detail in each of our committee's priorities, which had recently adopted. With regard to the first priority, which deals with green growth and circular economy, we think that even this year we will start working on promotion of best available technique concept in the industry. For this purpose, we have already organized the working group with the business society, where all stakeholders will be on board, and together we will work on the new legislation, and we will think about how to stimulate and how to create incentives for business to go through this very important and challenging process of best available techniques concept. Also, under green growth pillar, we will work on efficient waste recycling practices. As we have already adopted waste management code, there are still some missing points with regard to the execution. We should think about some tax reform, which will stimulate citizens to start sorting and to create recyclable products. Promoting a reduction of greenhouse gas emissions is also under our agenda, especially by encouraging use of renewable energy sourcing, paying more attention to sun and wind resources. Climate resilient urban and rural development is our second priority. It's very important to think about cities' resilience, to think about environmental issues integration into urban and spatial planning. We are planning to elaborate the guidelines and standardized regulations of planning and maintenance of green urban areas, which are so lacking in many big cities in the country. We will support creation of sustainable urban mobility system, making synergies between efficient transportation and encouragement of eco-transport, and linking it to the mobility in the city, and environmental protection is also very important to tackle the challenges we have and to achieve sustainable development goals. Encouragement of climate-wise practices in rural areas is also under our agenda, and we are working closely with the relevant committee to implement and to elaborate general guidelines. Promoting sustainable forestry resources is also under our agenda, and we will pay more attention to phytosanitary measures and to effective management of urban forests, as well as the forest in the whole country. We have to support government in the process of executing new forest code, elaboration and enforcement of the secondary legislation, and we will pay more attention towards efficient use of so-called green and forest waste in the cities and in the rural areas. The development and reform of the mining sector is also under our priority list. Also, there the government has also already started a big reform towards mining sector. There are some things we can do in advance by means of effective mechanism elaboration towards implementation of legal tools for sustainable development of mining sector, to support business and to give them opportunity to have more flexible legislation in this field, and not to forget about the regulations which are missing by means of mine closure and reclamation regulations. We will support government, and we will create the policy documents with regard of strengthening environmental protection and promotion of environmental supervision, which is so important to sustain the business climate on one hand, on another hand to preserve our nature. Transportation of best available technique provisions into national legislation, as I've already mentioned, should be implemented very accurately, not to harm our economy on one hand, and to create very competitive investment environment here. Effective protection of biodiversity, use of our protected areas and our forests, also urban forests for recreational measures is also under our agenda, where small and medium enterprises can find way to promote tourism or to use eco services to promote green economy. And of course, awareness raising and stakeholder engagement, as I've already mentioned, it is also very important. That's why we are working with the government, with the relevant stakeholders, with ministries. We are creating some working groups dealing with the forestry, dealing with the business agenda, business sector, dealing with some the processes toward eco-transport promotion, with supervision of, we have a working group which supervises the mining sector, and of course awareness raising and trainings which will lead to behavior change, which is mostly important in this process. All in all actions and reforms which we intend to do together with the central government, and we intend to do with municipalities, will neutralize the results of previously careless environmental management, will preserve natural resources, and will create strong mechanisms to address the needs of business sector and small and medium enterprise among them in process of transition to the green economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Maia. We will come back to you with questions from the audience. There are some in the chat box. And now let me introduce and to give the floor to Mr. Adam Guibourgé-Czetwertyński, the Under-Secretary of State of the Ministry of Climate and Environment of Poland. Mr. Guibourgé-Czetwertyński, I would like to ask the same question and to share with us, please share with us the Polish experience in how you are assisting Polish businesses to succeed transition to the green economy, which is very important. We know that in long run, yes, the green economy is and the circular economy is profitable, but the problem is in short run. The problem is now for SMEs, they need to invest in order to have this kind of transitioning. Please tell us Polish experience and your support. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you very much for inviting me to share a few experience that we had in Poland in planning our transition, and it's particularly important for me given the very strong ties that we have with Georgia, that I have the occasion to speak in such a conference. as you rightly pointed that this transition is very often a challenge. And I think in the EU, this is something that we've done in the past. We were very good at analyzing how profitable the transition was overall, creating jobs overall, but not looking at the different impacts it has on different sectors, on different regions, different cities, and different also groups in the population. And I think that this is one of the reasons that led us to promote very strongly as Poland this concept of just transition and this need to ensure that we move together towards a greener and better future for our citizens, but that we do it not forgetting about any of the groups that we have in our society. We don't forget about minors. We don't forget about the poorest people in our societies and the impact that the policies we are designing will have on them. And one of the answer to that is also the point that you mentioned about the specific situation of businesses, in particular those businesses that are today reliant on fossil fuel, on fossil fuel extraction, on sectors that, given the policies we are implementing, given the objectives of the Paris Agreement, will be declining over the next years, and how we can prepare the transition for these sectors to make sure that these companies also will thrive in the future, because these companies are important to provide jobs for the local community, to provide a good quality of life in these regions. And how do we do it in Poland? So there are several things that we do. We do, first of all, we do support the transition in these regions by designing specific programs for the regions that will be most affected by the transition, to help them face the challenges that they have. For instance, it may be challenges in terms of connection of a given region to infrastructure, to transport, to energy infrastructure that would help then attract new investors in those regions. That may be one example. But we're also supporting directly innovation in these companies. And for instance, we are supporting companies that today have a given line of products, but that may be products, as I said, related to a declining activity, and we help them develop new lines of products, innovate, and they have very strong technical competences. They have a very good supply chain. They have very good workers, and if we help them designing these new products that we will need for the transformation, for instance, heat pumps, photovoltaic panels, all these components that we need for the transformation, then we create a future for these companies and the possibility for these companies to develop in new sectors with new activities and continue to provide benefits for our community. So this is why we are designing such programs to support innovations in this company. And one third example I can give is we are also thinking holistically about our policies and how we integrate the objectives that we are setting in terms of environmental objectives and the impact it has also on the development of new business opportunities and the engagement and the possibility to involve companies and present in Poland. Let me give you one specific example with the transformation in the transport sector. We have in Poland a huge challenge with air quality, and part of it, as we know, is caused by transport. So we have this very high ambition to switch to a zero emission transport systems in all the major cities in Poland by 2030. And this will obviously require huge investments, but we know also that there are many companies in Poland that are very well placed to offer the products that we need for that transformation. We are already today the biggest exporter of buses in Europe. We are the biggest producer of batteries in Europe. So it is really a sector where Poland is leading, and we think that these policies and the support we will give to municipalities to buy new zero-emission buses will help the development as well of the Polish economy. So you have obviously to think about the policies you are designing that will lead to an improvement in terms of the quality of life of the citizens, the environment we're living in, and also the impact it has on businesses. But definitely these are things that you can do together in a way that is both beneficial for our environment and for the development of our countries.
Thank you very much, Mr. Guibourgé-Czetwertyński. It's a good experience as well for us. And of course, we fully agree that the private sector, government, the local communities, international organizations, municipalities should work together in order to achieve the goal. Let me invite and give the floor to Ms. Marika Olson, the Director of Economic Growth Office, USAID, Georgia. Ms. Olson, from the people of the United States of America, this is a very powerful message. And this is how we in Georgia perceive US support. You are here supporting the country in very many different areas, from agriculture, food safety, to democracy, human rights, governance, from economic growth to trade, to education, to climate change. So you are here in support of Georgia. Let me ask you the question, can you give us a bit more information, insight about the scope of the work of USAID? What programs have you implemented already so far in Georgia? What do you plan to do in coming future? And what is your main economic focus in the country? And how this focus will give another or new opportunities for inclusive economic growth? The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, and that's a great question. So thank you first for the opportunity to speak here today. USAID takes its commitment to sustainable economic development very seriously across sectors and across countries. And while it would be nice to say that we're protecting the environment for its own sake, there is unfortunately no way to really make that sustainable in today's world. Instead, we see the growth of the green economy both as a boon to our planet, but also as a way to drive high-value employment opportunities, especially here across Georgia. Historically, economic growth has been primarily jobless in Georgia, which leads to inequalities across regions, as has been mentioned before, and demographic groups, which increase social tensions and increase reliance on destructive environmental practices as a last economic resort. And so here in Georgia, we really think that USAID and our support for investment in the green economy can help change that dramatically. For us, there's first the role of women. Women, as we mentioned, have been historically underrepresented in the higher paying STEM fields, especially around engineering, where they make about 1/3 of Georgia's graduates from universities, where we see the natural sciences have a much more balanced, evenly distributed graduate section. So what we see is that if we can engage with the green economy and the science and innovation there, we can help pull those women into those higher paying jobs, engage more with the green economy, drive innovation and prosperity in Georgia. There was a study that found that if Georgia fully utilized its whole labor force, that would be an increase of 12% in GDP. So creating opportunities for us for women in the green economy can help make that happen. We also see the potential negative impacts underserved communities can have on the environment. Without employment opportunities and green growth strategies, communities often located in some of Georgia's most stunning and yet vulnerable wilderness areas will turn to destructive livelihoods, hunting wild animals, clear-cutting forests for firewood or for industrial production. Conversely, with the green economy, we find ways to sustainably monetize those resources, be it through low-impact green tourism, sustainable selective wood harvesting, monetizing carbon offsets. Those areas can grow and thrive economically as well as environmentally. And again, I've mentioned innovation, and some of the other panelists have talked about advances in geothermal and battery technology. We're seeing advances in energy efficiency here in Georgia. And as we continue to promote sustainable green technologies, and as Georgia's green economy grows, it can drive further advances across sectors and hopefully across the region. As for our role as donors, USAID sees our biggest contribution in supporting the kind of enabling environment where the private sector has the tools and the incentives, be they legislative, technical, financial, to invest sustainably in a green economy. So this means that our programs can support the development of enforceable legislation to ensure that investments are properly designed in compliance with international standards for safety and environmental protection. Most recently, we supported the development of laws on energy and water supply and promoting the reduction of use of renewable energy sources. Implementation of these laws lay out the playing field for future investments in green growth. We work with the Georgian government in a variety of ways, including with the national park system, to create sustainable development plans for the management of national parks and protected areas. We draw on best practices from the US from our own national parks, where stakeholders are being equipped with the skills to protect the natural wilderness areas while bringing in income generation to sustainably fund conservation efforts and to provide a viable alternative to more destructive extractive industries, mining, hunting, clear cutting. We also work with the government and the private sector to expand access to renewable energy, especially for those most in need. We've recently worked with the Ministry of Economy and Sustainable Development and the Ministry of Regional Development and Infrastructure to help procure and install solar photovoltaic systems for 207 permanent residents in the off-grid villages of Georgia. These investments not only provide a renewable, green, clean source of energy for previously underserved communities, but also provide expanded economic and livelihood opportunities in these underserved areas. We also work with civil society organizations and the government to increase public-private dialogue and counter some of the disinformation we're seeing around green energy investments. We give citizens access to the science and the risks and benefits of green energy investments, what they can bring to their communities, while working with the government to improve community outreach and dialogue, supporting organizations to hold the private sector and the government accountable to standards. And we partner with the private sector, of course, to fill the skills gap by developing and implementing high quality curricula at universities and vet institutions. We've begun this with investments in the development of the circular economy curricula, and we intend to expand that through our upcoming industry-led skills development project, which we hope to have launched this summer. And of course, it means identifying financial resources that we can bring to bear, jump-starting some of these initial investments in the green economy. For some examples, under our energy programs, we've developed an innovative web-based interactive renewable energy investor guidebook for GEDF that'll help mobilize private sector investment in clean energy. And currently we, in collaboration with the US Development Finance Corporation, we have 4 wind projects, which would provide up to 258 megawatts, or approximately 10% of Georgia's power, totaling 358 million in private sector investment, and they're at the final stages of financing negotiations for those. We're working with enterprises in waste management sector to improve Georgia's ability to reduce, reuse, and recycle goods, and pursuing opportunities for greater reductions in landfills and new opportunities for net positive investments, including biomass to energy. And then on the community level, we've co-invested with the Partnership Fund and Startup Georgia in green technologies that support the economic resilience of rural areas. Together, we've supported processing of used motor oil and coal production from recycled or discarded walnut and hazelnut shells. Again, all of our economic development activities are focused on capitalizing on the opportunities that the green development sector presents for the generation of sustainable, high-value employment for Georgians across Georgia, not just limited to Tbilisi. And we believe that ensuring such investments are a net positive for the environment and for Georgia. And it's a necessary part of our calculation that when we look for economic growth, that we ensure that these are jobs that promote a sustainable environment where they will still be able to survive and thrive 10, 20, 30 years down the road. And again, we're pleased to support the government and the private sector as we pursue our shared goals, including the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals and fast-tracking zero carbon and inclusive growth. I know that's a lot of information, across a wide variety of sectors. But thank you for the opportunity to talk, and I'm ready for any questions you or your audience might have.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Olson. Very impressive. And let me reiterate that the U.S. contribution in Georgia's development, and I will not exaggerate if I say that Georgia's transformation is very, very crucial. It's invaluable. And thank you. We appreciate it so much. So our next speaker is Mr. Simone Kaslovsky, the president of TUSIAD, Turkish Industry and Business Association. Mr. Kaslovsky, first of all, welcome. You are the business leader who has the tremendous experience in managing and, in a sense, transforming businesses, right? Not only in Turkey. Therefore, your opinion is very important for companies willing to transition to the green economy. I have a few questions for you. What do you think will be the reflection of green economy on jobs and employment? And in what way do you find it necessary to be prepared for this transformation? And which actions are currently critically important for low carbon and resource efficient development? And last question, and how important is in this regard the multi-stakeholder cooperation? Thank you. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. First of all, to the UN Global Compact and this initiative that was started with the local networks of Georgia and Ukraine, Turkey, and Belarus. I'm very happy and honored to be here together with you and on such an important topic. I represent TUSIAD, which is an organization, which is a non-governmental organization created about 50 years ago in Turkey by the private enterprises, by business people who in their statutes back then already specified that they were supporters of a sustainable growth of an economy that is it's a market economy that is a participatory democracy, but but most importantly bases its growth on sustainable models. We are part of many international organizations, among which also Business Europe, and we fully share their objective that was shared with the policymakers also in Europe before the pandemic. It was summarized with, as people, planet, and prosperity. And so as an organization, we try to increase awareness among our members, among the policymakers, of the importance of having a model of development that is based on improving our environment and respecting basically and trying to improve the use of natural resources, of hydrocarbons, and in order to also be able to reach the objectives of having zero carbon emissions as shared by also the Paris Agreement. We definitely see the opportunities that this transformation is creating in terms of jobs. When we talk about climate change, we are talking about innovating, about designing, about new technologies, about new equipment, new machines. And this will obviously change the working environment. And so we will have jobs that disappear, but many jobs that will be created. And to be able to make use of this opportunity the best we can is we need to definitely upskill, reskill the workforce and the newcomers, the young people, and that means also reforming the education system from very early ages, so that we can have children that can cope with the digital transformation, that have digital skills, that have also social and emotional skills, that are problem solving, that are multidisciplinary, thinking out of the box, cooperative spirit, creativity, and resilience. These are all skills that are needed to cope with this changing environment, and to make best use of the digital transformation, which can help improve our efficient use of resources. This is particularly important also for Turkey, that is a country that is importer of hydrocarbons, and so it's definitely a win-win approach, and this is we see that the government is also supportive, and in also creating the policies that are necessary for having energy produced from renewable resources like wind and solar, and Turkey is a country actually blessed with quite a good source of both regular wind and also solar. Cooperative spirit is definitely something we believe in. Clustering is a method to accelerate growth, accelerate innovation, and bringing together the resources and the complementary skills of the private sector together with the academia, together with the public sector. You can enable and you can accelerate innovation in the area of sustainability. We've seen this with pandemic, with the solutions around the vaccines, etc., which were created in a record speed, thanks to this cooperative spirit between both public and private sectors. And so this is definitely the winning approach, and so we will we try to promote this type of cooperations also in Turkey. Finance is also another area that needs to be basically secured, and so both public finance and private sectors, private banks, should promote the investments in the area of sustainability, and that's also another area that needs to be addressed if you want to succeed in transforming the industry and the environment in a carbon-free, carbon emission-free environment. So the pandemic has accelerated this awareness among people, families, businesses, countries, and this is definitely a very positive impact, let's say, of this unfortunate situation. So I'm also, willing and here to address also questions that then may come from panelists or the audience in respect of what we're doing. Thank you.
We will have opportunity, Mr. Kozlowski, to have some questions from the audience and from panelists, maybe. The pandemic is the challenge and the opportunity at the same time. So let's use it better. So thank you again. We have, ladies and gentlemen, 2 more outstanding speakers from Ukraine and Belarus. And right now, let me give the floor to Mr. Dmytro Sakharuk, Executive Director of DTEK. Mr. Sakharuk, welcome. As a business leader of the largest Ukrainian holding company in the energy sector, who operates many assets, including assets in coal mining and coal-fired thermal power plants, it is valuable that you will provide the information how you're managing this transitioning process to the green economy, and what does the Green Deal mean for you, for DTEK, and what programs are you implementing to support the Green Deal? Thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting me for that panel, and thank you very much for questioning. First, I would answer how we are trying to be greener, more efficient, and more technologically advanced business. We believe that this is a very important, however, very difficult task, because it's always difficult to transform big organization. We employ 70,000 people in Ukraine. We are the biggest employer, and we are the biggest asset manager in Ukraine in the energy sector. That's why we need a lot of resources and efforts to achieve tangible results. And we believe that everything we do should be governed by the EEG principles. That is new agenda, a new frame that is used in many countries of the world. As a target, big target that we announced is that we want to be carbon neutral by 2040. That is a big promise from us, a big goal around which we combine all our activities. First of all, we believe that the green or renewable energy is our future. According to our forecast, a reduction of the average cost of electricity production will result in increased share of alternative energy in the country energy balance from up to 30% by 2030. And we want to be part of that change. During last 3 years, we invested $1.2 billion into the construction of 1 gigawatt of renewable capacities, basically wind and solar. That is our vehicle that we use to transform from the thermal generation company to the green company. So this is one big stream, and we have a big ambition to continue. We have in our pipeline the next big project in the south of Ukraine for the 500 megawatt. It's a wind park. So renewable energy, this is the first direction. The second is efficiency, energy efficiency. It's a big impact that we may get from the energy efficiency, because from one side we need to produce clean, but from other side we need to be sustainable in the consumption. Energy efficiency help us to reduce the consumption of energy. We have a big company, we have part of our group dedicated for this task. It's called D-Solution, and where we offer the full range of services that help a variety of customers to improve their energy efficiency efforts. For example, during last 2 years, we implemented more than 80 energy efficiency projects in industrial and budget spheres. That's created, that allowed us to help our customers to save approximately 200 million kilowatt hours. For the retail clients, we offer turnkey solutions, starting from the roof panels, solar panels, finishing with the energy efficiency measures in their household. So basically, by investing into new areas of energy sector, by developing the energy efficiency services, we believe that we do a real impact to help Ukraine, to help us to become neutral, carbon neutral by 2040. If we talk about the Green Deal, the second part of your question, the Green Deal for us, it's a transition to a green economy. It's not about only kind of cutting the emissions. It's more about the economical transformation fueled by big investments into the new products and new services. As our Polish colleague mentioned, we also see where we need to invest to create new economies, new areas of production. Just transition, it's a big issue for us because we have more than 30,000 people working in the coal mines. That's why we need to create new businesses, new spheres of employment for those people who will be eliminated from the mines. And here we have a pilot projects in some of the regions in Ukraine where we basically develop new working places and creating the sources for the state and local budgets instead of our mines. We also believe that we should be a leader in implementation of the innovative modern technologies, notably the installation of storage systems. We built in Ukraine the first energy storage industrial scale. That is the first pilot project that we will launch in April. By the way, I invite you, if you have a chance, to join us in the opening ceremony in one of our stations. That will be the first energy project in the storage that allow us to test this technology in real life. We will see how we may help the energy system to balance it, and whether that's economically feasible thing or not. Also, we are very active in the implementation of the pilot project for the green hydrogen. We believe that, and we have a contract with one of the big German companies, Siemens, and where we want to implement this project in the south of Ukraine, together with one of our partners, metallurgical plant. We would like to use the hydrogen for the production needs to make the clean steel, and also to use parts of the hydrogen for the clean transportation, basically the buses that consume hydrogen. We want to run it as a pilot project. So, and the last thing that also important for us is that we need to think about the diversification of the working places, because each employer deserves equal opportunity to achieve their professional goals, and that needs to promote new ideas, attract talents, and drive innovation, create solutions. We need to make sure that by doing the change, nobody is left behind, that everybody is cared, and we find a proper place for men, women, and all other in the areas where they will be able to achieve their professional goals and their personal goals. It's important because sometimes transformation, it's a big wheel. Somebody lost. So we make sure that we keep all our talents together to move with them for the next to the green future of Ukraine in our company.
Thank you, Mr. Sakharuk, for your contribution. It's very impressive, awesome, what you are doing at the company. Yes, I agree. Absolutely, the transformation is a very painful process. It's in fact changing the business models, changing the mentality, way of thinking at the same time. So, and last but not least, let me invite our dear speaker from Belarus, Ms. Ekaterina Rudjak, Vice Director of Group of the Companies ProLiv. Ms. Rudjak, we know that the sustainability agenda is the part of your company's strategy. This is absolutely welcome. And I would like to ask you to tell us more about your company and your experience in achieving the green economy goals in transport company. So, Ms. Rudjak, the floor is yours.
Приветствую всех участников Making Global Goals Local Business Forum. Большое спасибо докладчикам за очень много полезной и интересной информации. Большое спасибо. Что ж, расскажем о нашем опыте. Группа компаний ProLiv занимается международной перевозкой наливных грузов с 2009 года. И мы понимаем, что перевозки негативно влияют на экологию, поэтому для того, чтобы минимизировать вред природе, который наносит непосредственно транспорт при перевозке грузов, из всех целей устойчивого развития особое внимание мы уделяем внедрению во все бизнес-процессы зеленых технологий. Таким образом, зеленые технологии мы применяем в двух направлениях. Непосредственно при оказании транспортных услуг и нашей обычной хозяйственной деятельности, в жизни офиса, в жизни наших сотрудников. Начну со второго пункта и очень кратко остановлюсь на наших зеленых проектах, интегрированных в обычную хозяйственную деятельность. У нас есть производственная транспортная база с офисными помещениями, СТО, моечной станцией, и при проектировании и стройке этой базы мы уже использовали методики, позволяющие максимально сохранить тепло в здании, оснастили все здания энергосберегающим освещением, установили датчики света, датчики воды, внедрили раздельный сбор мусора с последующим вывозом на переработку. Особое внимание хочу обратить на нашу мощную станцию. При мойке автоцистерн используется закрытый цикл очистки воды с помощью очистных сооружений, что позволяет минимизировать использование водных ресурсов. Также у нас в планах установка ветроэнергетической установки солнечных батарей на крыше здания. Хочется поделиться еще нашим одним проектом. Он проходит у нас среди офисных сотрудников. Наши сотрудники, работающие в офисе, уже 4 года активно реализуют экологический проект «Посадим дерево вместе». В каждом кабинете установлены стилизованные ящики, куда сотрудники выбрасывают отработанную бумагу, приносят из дома бумагу, и после всего мы централизованно сдаем, а на вырученные деньги озеленяем как территорию как компании, так и инвестируем в восстановление лесов. Также в июне 2019 года наша компания присоединилась к необычному социальному проекту «Новая жизнь в обмен на крышечки». Суть его заключается в том, что в оказании помощи нуждающимся людям при помощи средств, полученных от переработки пластика. Организаторы проекта предлагают не отправлять крышечки с бутылочек со всего, то есть на свалке, а собирать их в специальные контейнеры. Далее вторсырье передается перерабатывающим организациям, а за счет средств, полученных от продажи, покупаются медикаменты, инвентарь и оборудование для больных, детей и взрослых. Возвращаясь к применению зеленых технологий при оказании транспортных услуг, хочу обратить особое внимание на основной источник выбросов – выбросы СО2 от двигателей внутреннего сгорания. Для сокращения данного вида загрязнения мы предпринимаем целый комплекс мер. Первое, это самое такое простое, это обновление парка транспортных средств. Мы переходим с класса экологичности Евро-5 на класс экологичности Евро-6. Далее это дооборудование транспортных средств. Мы оснащаем транспортные средства системой Fleetboard. Эта система включает в себя программное обеспечение и самоустройство. Производит Daimler, Германия, и устанавливается именно на Мерседесах, на транспортных средствах. Система специально разработана с целью слежения за эффективностью работы транспорта и работы водителя, а также автоматически формирует мероприятия по снижению расхода топлива с учетом стиля вождения конкретного водителя. Наша цель – это снижение расхода топлива с помощью этой системы на 5-15% и, как следствие, снижение выбросов углеродных газов. В дополнение мы организовываем курсы по эковождению. Теоретическая и практическая часть проводится как водителями-наставниками, так и приглашенными специалистами из Германии и России. Внедряем мы альтернативные источники энергии. В настоящее время в нашей работе используются транспортные средства на газу, а в перспективе, как и многие транспортные компании, мы хотим внедрить электромобили. И к 2030 году у нас цель заменить 30% транспортных средств на электромобили. Еще одна мера – это использование высокотехнологичных шин с целью сокращения воздействия на окружающую среду. Выбросы СО2 будут меньше на 3,3 тонны на 100 километров при использовании данных шин. И, безусловно, в целях минимизации ведется совместная работа с нашими клиентами по оптимизации загрузок. В дополнение можно сказать, что в настоящее время наша компания участвует в программе SDG Ambition, где один из выбранных нами бенчмарков стало научно обоснованное сокращение выбросов в соответствии с траекторией 1,5 градуса. В рамках программы мы обмениваемся опытом с коллегами в этой области, и это очень продуктивно для нас. Ну и в заключение я хочу сказать, что очень радует, что наши клиенты и поставщики смотрят на данную проблему так же, как и мы, и стремятся максимально минимизировать ущерб природе. Ведь только совместными усилиями, поддержкой друг друга в зеленых инициативах мы сможем сделать наш мир лучше. Спасибо за внимание.
Thank you, Ms. Rudjak, for your contribution. So we are exactly on time. Right now it's a Q&A session. There are some questions. Yeah, there are some questions, and let me start the question to, let me direct one of the questions to Ms. Marika Olson. So one of our participants is asking the following question. How sustainable is to build the large hydropower plants? Because you know that in Georgia there is some controversy to build large power plants. And what is an alternative from your point of view to develop the Georgian energy system? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm afraid I'm going to have to pass on that first question. I'm not an engineer. I am a plant geneticist. In terms of sustainability, though, we do, especially for investments that we support, we do push for plans and legislation that actually demonstrate whether or not those plants will be sustainable in the future. And I know the government has regulations as well. I'm afraid that's as close as I can get to answering that part of the question. Now, as for alternatives, USAID programs, especially, we're looking at supporting solar and wind. We know that Georgia, if you've ever visited, has some amazing untapped wind potential. Across the country, we only have, I believe, 6 wind turbines right now. And so that's an amazing opportunity. One of my other colleagues here mentioned geothermal. There is a history as well of looking for, actually it was the Soviets looking for oil, didn't find any oil, but found a lot of geothermal opportunities here. So there are, hydro does offer opportunities for some communities, but communities that don't necessarily have a water source that can be tapped do have opportunities for solar, for wind, for geothermal. And potentially for clean biomass conversion as well.
Thank you, Ms. Olson. So the second question is to Ms. Maia Bitadze. Let me read this question. To support the development of low carbon mobility, we need more investment in green infrastructure, such as electric charging stations. However, existing legislation today makes it difficult for private business to invest and operate it. If there new legislation, regulation envisaged that will simplify such investment in this field, is the question. And this question is also asked to other participants if you would like to answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this very important question. As I've already mentioned, it's kind of one of our priorities. So I think my camera starts.
Yes, please switch off your camera.
Oh, because when I'm silent, it's okay.
Okay, Murphy's law always works.
It's very important question and very timely question. As I've already mentioned, we have very ambitious plan to change legislation and to create stimulation measures to support environmentally friendly transport. So it means that we will think further about some subsidizing mechanisms for example, for electric charging stations. As you know, I'm ex-deputy mayor of Tbilisi, and in Tbilisi we worked very actively in this field. The city hall even subsidized charging stations, and moreover, to support business who wants to use its resources toward sustainable and eco-friendly transport mobility system. You know that we are working and We have finalized bike schemes in whole city, and now the infrastructural works are going through. In 2 years, all city will be prepared for the new cycling schemes, which means that further small and medium enterprises who are interested in introducing city bike systems or city scooter new systems, they will be allowed to do it. It's very important. So at the committee, we together with the business, I mentioned that we have the working group with the business. We think that we'll find best ways how to promote further this eco-friendly transport system. So what is mostly important that the committee started working to find more synergies between environmental protection and transport development, not only working on reduction of emissions and regulations in relation to it, but working on sustainable urban development where transport and greening are in the one scheme with a special development of the cities.
Thank you, Ms. Maia Bitadze. If someone would like to answer this question, otherwise there is another question to Ms. Ekaterina Rudjak. This is a very practical question. So let me read. It is in Georgian. Let me translate it. So the question is, how many tires do you have? Do you recycle each year, and how do you handle this process, and how much it costs for you to recycle? And you have 150 Mercedes trucks, right? So this is a question.
Спасибо за вопрос. Конечно, сейчас мне сложно будет парировать цифрами, так как, то есть, я не в экономической отделе работаю компании, именно по количеству шин. Знаю, что проблема с переработкой шин имеется, то есть это не нулевые отходы 100%, то есть у нас заключен договор с компанией, которая занимается утилизацией шин, и данная компания, то есть, приезжает, эти шины забирает и уже безопасно их утилизирует. То есть это не нулевой отход, это не нулевая переработка. Увы, пока это так. Если есть какая-то практика у других компаний, как утилизировать шины, чтобы это была переработка дальнейшая, производство, мы бы с удовольствием посотрудничали. И более того, наши компании, коллеги в транспортном бизнесе тоже имеют аналогичную проблему по утилизации шин. Надеюсь, я ответила на вопрос. Спасибо.
Спасибо. Thank you very much. So we are going to the end to our panel. If you have some comments, I'm asking the panel members to add to your presentations, to your contributions. You are welcome. After that, I will have 2 minutes to talk. Do you have something to add? So I didn't introduce myself, the business professional. In this case, I need also to talk about my company, which is Efes Georgia. This is the part of one of the largest investments in the country. Our ultimate beneficiary owners are Turkish Anadolu Group and Anheuser-Busch InBev. This is the multinational, the largest beverages producer. From Anadolu Group, we have invested in Georgia in beverages industry and in the renewable energy sector. We have built 90 megawatt hydropower plants in the south part of Georgia, and we have commissioned this power plant in 2016. It's one of the successful projects. In our pipeline, it's another project, which is the wind power plants, and if everything goes well with the government, we will have to start building very soon from 20 megawatt up to 100 megawatt. So wind the hydropower plant, we believe that it's very important for Georgia, even though that there are some controversy with regards to the big power plants, but you know, the alternatives are there. As Ms. Marika also mentioned, there is a solar energy perspective and opportunity for Georgia, wind, geothermal, etc. So this was from my side. Previously, I worked in the government in my previous life. I was the Georgian military representative to NATO, so 15 years ago. It was a long time. And my education, I have the master's degree in mathematics from Tbilisi State University and the MBA from the Athens Laboratory of Business Administration, which is the graduate business school. And I also do some pro bono activity, like I'm the first deputy chairman of International Chamber of Commerce, Georgia. So with that, I think that this was a long day. That's pretty much it. And I would like to use this opportunity to thank you, the participants, the panel members. It was our pleasure to host you here, and also the participants who were listening us. So with this, let me wish you all the best in your future endeavors, and let me finish our panel. And thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, dear panelists. Thank you, dear attendees. Thank you, Nikoloz, for wonderful moderation. Thank you to our wonderful interpreters doing great job translating this important panel. MGGLB Regional Conference is over for today. We will resume tomorrow with the same link at 12 noon Tbilisi, Georgia time with panel on green innovations. Thank you and goodbye.